Welcome back to Crossroaded, a very special Mother's Day edition. I am your host, Eric Nichols. With me this week, a new co-host, first time on the show, James. Welcome. Thank you for joining me today.
Thanks for having me, man. Yeah, shout out all those Moto moms. Happy Mother's Day. Happy to be here.
Absolutely. And yeah, I mean, obviously, our three other guys are usually on here. They have other obligations, but we wanted to fit it in. So let's go ahead and jump right into it. We had Salt Lake City, the Supercross finale this past weekend. A lot to unravel there. But first, as always, we're going to go into some of the storylines leading up to this week. And James, the first thing that kind of was announced that was really surprising is Jeremy Martin. He signed a three-race deal, first star, so he's going to be racing outdoors. It sounds like he's going to be out there as soon as Paula, but I mean, we'll see. But where does J Mart stack up in this deep 250 field?
I mean, he's been a while since he's been racing against the big dogs. I mean, we'll see what he can do. I mean, if Star sees something in him, he's got to have some potential. I think he'll fare pretty well. He's racing a pretty stacked field, but I'm feeling maybe he'll do like a master pool kind of deal, kind of show
Yeah.
out as a test rider, and maybe get that 1 year deal, 2 year deal after this. With Davies being injured now, he's gonna have maybe a couple more weeks to fill in if needed.
Yeah, no, that's true, right? And one thing we know about J Mart is that his stamina is going to be there, right? But it's funny that you bring up Masterpool because I could kind of see it the same way. Masterpool's debut at Paula last year was not good. I think it didn't go very well, so we might see that with J Mart. Might take him a little bit, but I mean, I don't know. Maybe I see him right around 10th. I just the field is so deep. Yeah, there's a lot of names missing, so maybe he'll get up to an eighth or a seventh, but. What about you? What's your ceiling for him? Is he a top five guy, or is he going to be battling for 10th
I
place?
mean, week one, Paula, I'm not seeing him faring too well. I'm not seeing top five, but maybe once he knocks the dust off and kind of sees how he fares against the other riders, I could see him, like you said, top 10, top 12, somewhat consistent. Maybe pull off a sixth or a seventh if someone goes down or injuries, like you said. He might fare all right, but I'm not putting him in a podium in fantasy by any means.
Yeah, and we'll see. Obviously, as we get closer to Apollo, we're still 2 weeks out. See who's going to be returning from injury, who's not, and get a better idea. And of course, we're going to do a preview show for that. The next thing that came out, not really crazy big news, but AP, he re-signs with KTM. This is kind of one of those dominoes that needed to fall into place. But I mean, we'll get into the main event later. But with Viao winning that title, he has to jump up to 450 next year, and now. The rumors are Sexton is leaving KTM. Tomac might be going to KTM, but yeah, it really shakes things up there over at KTM, James.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. AP, a good move for him. One more year. I think, I don't know if he how much more he's got in the tank, but he fared pretty well end of
Hmm.
Supercross this season, and he was consistent podium, second 2-2, 3-2 last year outdoors. So, like you said, with Vial having to jump up and rumored Sexton going away and rumored Tomac going to KTM, I'm not sure how he'll fit into that mix, but I'm happy for him. Like to see the Cowboy do well.
Yeah, I mean, we saw the beginning of Supercross was kind of ugly. It was not going well, and he really turned it around after he got that win. Just kind of started clicking off some good finishes. I know another story that came out. Zach Osborne looks like he's back into the moto scene. He is now the beta ambassador. Looks like he might be doing some races here and there, but obviously nothing crazy, nothing AMA. But yeah, James, cool to see Osborne kind of get back into the scene.
Yeah, I think that's pretty cool. I think it's a good move for Beta Osborne. He's a two-time 250 champion, and then he's got that. He came back as he's been pretty or was consistently racing GNCC, so he's kind of across
Hmm.
the board. And in terms of Beta, they're a big market for those outdoor or those off-road guys. So I think he fits the boot there perfectly, so to speak.
Yeah, no, I think so too. It's going to be interesting to see Moeller, but it's cool to see Beta get a big name like that to support him. All right, this next one, um, kind of storylines after the press day on Friday, but Deegan goes out there. Obviously we know about the incident last week. Took out his own teammate, got the win. But Deegan goes on to this interview. Heading into Salt Lake, and he says, "Hey, this isn't a team sport. Teammates are for training and practicing purposes only. But once it comes to Saturday, there is no team." team sport or teammates, in Supercross or Moto in general. But yeah, what do you think about that? Do you agree? Do you think, hey, when the gate drops, it is what it is, or no, you still have to have some kind of team tactics, which we will talk about what we saw in the main later. But
Yeah, I mean, team tactics. I think it's definitely there. It needs to be there. I think Davies and Deegan are slightly different story. Both title contention and both got the title on the line. When it comes down to that, you got to do what you got to do. And I understand that. Well, there's only one winner. But in terms of that not being a team sport overall, I don't agree with that. I think it's definitely a team sport. You still get into the main, but just one quick example: AP let Sexton by him yesterday, get all the
hmm
points he can. If you're not in title contention, there's no point of putting someone over a berm.
no, and we'll talk about it tonight. Obviously, last round there was a lot of team tactics on full display. We saw Justin Cooper. He did it last week too. So yeah, I mean, it is an individual sport, but at the same time, you got to have allies. You got to have guys that are going to have your back and they're going to kind of help you out when you need to. You definitely don't want to, be making enemies all the way across the board.
Yeah,
Which,
you don't need too many people against you. When push comes to shove, you might need someone to block pass for you, and at
yep,
some time.
yeah, no, exactly. Well, speaking of some controversy, so I don't know about you heard this whole Sexton wearing his hat backwards. Okay, so basically the story behind it is so KTM they hate it when their riders don't wear their hats forward because that's their logo brand. They want them to have it on the podium. Well, Sexton for the last couple weeks, even this week, started wearing his hat backwards. I guess KTM told him, "Hey, we don't like that. Please wear your hat forward." And he still continued to wear his hat backwards. Maybe it's nothing, but with all these rumors of him leaving and going to Kawasaki, I mean, I don't know the backwards hat thing. I feel like it has some backing to it as far as this maybe Sexton's telling KTM, "Hey, peace out."
Yeah, I think it's a little bit of the writing on the wall. KTM is super proper about what their riders wear, what they do, how they act. With Sexton doing that, like you said, it's kind of not necessarily a diss to KTM, but could be him saying bye. In my opinion, I don't think Sexton was ever really happy on KTM. He's
hmm
only had kind of bad things to say about the bike since he switched from the Honda. So I think he's kind of over it, and he's saying his goodbyes and not really giving a shit what they got to say to him. And he's gonna if he's jumping ship, then why need to listen?
Yeah, and I mean this move, it's going to be really interesting. I mean, you see how he looked this weekend, absolutely unreal. He won the outdoor title last year. I mean, the bike looks fine. I mean, you look at the mistakes that he made throughout this season, and we'll go over it, at the very end. But none of this was bike related. A lot of it was just in his head. So you just think like, dude, you're gonna jump ship again from another elite factory team over to Kawasaki. Who knows how that's gonna go? And then from there, what you maybe have Star Yamaha, and that's kind of gonna be it. Like he's kind of burning bridges quickly, and I don't know. I mean, you watch him this week, and you're like, dude, is it really that bad? Because you were still a second faster than everyone else out there.
Yeah, once he gets out of his head, man, he's on rails. You can't beat the guy. But like you said, if he's jumping ship OEM to OEM, he's gonna have no one to fall back on once he gets a little older. Christian Craig fell back on Star,
hmm
and Roxon he fell back on Suzuki. But I couldn't see Sexton after 2 years here, 2 years there, 2 years here. They might not want to bring him back when he's 30 plus and still looking for a ride.
Yeah. Hey, we're seeing it right now, right? Eli Tomac, he's trying to find a ride. Their
Yeah.
Star's not signing him, and Kawasaki is completely off the table. With the relationship that they had before when he left, that's an open spot, and that's completely off the table. There's no way Tomac's going to Kawasaki. Kawasaki's not going to bring back Tomac, so we're kind of seeing it firsthand here. But it's going to be interesting. Obviously, we still got all outdoors to go, but I mean, yeah, we'll kind of see what happens. And the last thing I have on here, so Kyle Chisholm, he officially retired after this year. I know obviously he's going to be doing some races here and there, but he's done, with the full-time AMA schedule. But I mean, yeah, I mean, Chiz, hell of a career, literally the definition of a journeyman when it comes to Supercross. He's done it for so long. He's always been so consistent. But yeah, I mean, hell of a career for Kyle Chisholm,
Yeah, man, he had a great career. I heard on the broadcast yesterday there, someone was saying he had the same amount of starts as Tomac, which is wild. Such a long, in
right?
15 years, it's like 184 starts or something. Like, man, that guy he's persistent, I like Chisholm, and I'm looking forward to see what he's going to do next.
Yeah, no, it's going to be interesting for sure. And shout out to Chiz. I'm someone that wears a neck brace. He's one of the only pros that, still rocks it out there. So shout out to him. All right. Did you have any other storylines that you heard, heading into this week?
No, we kind of hit on all the main points, man. Those are the big ones. Just end the Supercross. Looking forward to outdoor starting now.
Yep, no, absolutely. All right, let's go into this track layout. Utah, we always know Utah, it's going to be dry, it's going to be hard packed. That's exactly what we saw, but we did see some technical rhythm sections that played a big factor. The finish line jump seemed massive. But yeah, what do you think of the track layout? And the racing, I felt like it was all right.
I thought it was pretty good. It was pretty standard Salt Lake. Hard packed and not overly technical, but like you said, those rhythm sections. They had some like table on, double out kind of funky stuff going on, which I liked. But yeah, it was pretty standard Salt Lake in my opinion. It was hard packed, fast. It was set up for not the most technical riders. If you can get it on rails and find your good lines, it's yours.
Yeah. Where do you stand as far as Utah being the finale? Do you like it being there?
No, man, they should go back to Vegas.
Right. Yeah, I think that's kind of the everyone's opinion is Utah. It's great. I think Utah needs to stay on the schedule, but I don't think it's anywhere that needs to host a finale. If anything, it should go back to Anaheim for a finale if we can't get into Vegas. But yeah, I mean, it's a small stadium. The track's usually pretty small and basic, and yeah, you kind of know what you're gonna get. And yeah, this track was super hard packed and same as what we see every year.
Yeah, same thing.
All right, going over to the lit kit, we saw a few teams roll out. The biggest thing with me is I have Fly Racing down. I mean, take your pick. They had the good bag and the ugly kits, with the white black, and then that Dino had his pink and the colorful one. To me, I thought that combo was sick. Personally, I really like the Dino kit. I think it really stood out. But I mean, there are a few kits out there that look good. But how about you? Who stood out to you as far as the lit kit?
I like the PC kit, man. Hammaker, they're
Yeah,
running that kind of old school, like Back to the Future Pro Circuit across the front, and they
yeah.
got that Fox logo that was stitched into it, that blue and like a neon green, neon yellow. I thought that kit was super cool, man. But like you said, Fly Gear, they have their ups and downs, but I think they're making a serious push for a pretty cool gear manufacturer again. They had a few off years, the last
hmm
5 years or so, not making much, but I think they're making a name for themselves again, especially with Cooper Webb riding for them. They got some big names up on there, so see what they come out with going forward.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure they said on the broadcast that this was Fly Racing's first 450 Supercross championship.
Yeah,
So
that's
that's a big
huge.
deal. But yeah, I mean, you can kind of see their designs have been getting a little bit better. This week right here was really stood out compared to what Fly normally does. But usually their other gear is pretty basic, and yeah, I've never really been a big fan of it. But this gear, I mean, they really kind of went outside the box and they made it look good. But that's what you're gonna have to do when you have a champion, wearing your gear out there.
Yeah, you got to look the part.
Yep. All right, let's go into qualifying. The biggest thing, obviously was the Cole Davies wreck. I've seen a few different camera angles of it. I saw one from the overhead earlier today that actually looked like Jordan Smith landed more on Cole Davies' back fender versus the first video we saw looked like he just drilled him right in the back. But I mean, really nasty crash. Obviously, we were at the track when we saw the video. But I mean, yeah, really nasty. Sounds like Cole Davies just has an arm injury, so he got lucky. But yeah, I mean, James, that was scary.
Yeah, man. I mean, when you showed me that at the track, from our perspective, from that side view that we were seeing it from, it looked like Smith landed right into his spine. That had the lookings of a career-ending injury for Davies. And thankfully not. Like you said, it came out with a broken arm and I think a broken nose, which is honestly for as a horrible scenario, that's a pretty good outcome for a wreck of that level.
Yeah, I mean, and you look a couple weeks back, look at Jerry Robbins' crash. It didn't look anywhere nearly as bad as what this looked like,
Yeah, man, he
and
just
you
kind
see
of
the
rolled
difference.
over, and it's just the way you land, I guess. But I mean, yeah, Jerry Rotten, man, that's super unfortunate. He didn't have nearly as gnarly as a crash as this, and obviously way more of an impact.
Yeah, yeah. So obviously, which sucks, Cole Davies was looking good. He had the fastest lap before that happened, but Julian Beaumer, I mean, no surprise, he came out fastest qualifier. We talked about it last week. I mean, hard packed. We saw what he looked like in Anaheim, San Diego, Glendale. He rips on the hard pack stuff, not so much on the ruts, but I mean, no surprise to see Julian Beaumer fastest overall in qualifying.
Yeah, man, Juju really stands out, like you said, in those hard packed tracks. Like I kind of said when we were talking about track layout, there's guys that are made for tracks like that. You know, Sexton's kind of up there too, fast in the hard pack. Juju, yeah, he was on rails, man. You couldn't be beat.
Yeah, and then a couple of her notables. Deegan was second, Hammaker third, Drew Adams with a really good qualifying time up there. Um, Enzo Loves looked good. Faulkner, one of the better qualifying seasons. I could tell you, it worried me right out of the gate. RJ Hampshire, he was pretty far down when it came to qualifying. I think he was just outside the top 10. But yeah, what about anything else 250 qualifying that really stood out to you?
I mean, like you said, Drew Adams, man, he coming out for his rookie season, 250, and off an injury. I think he rode great for the standings that he was in, and then Hampshire had he was up and down, and got caught in that block, and couldn't really seem to get it going in qualifying. But he's
Hmm.
one of those guys where he don't really care who ends up in qualifying. It's all about once that gate goes down and you're bar to bar, he can make it happen.
Yeah. And then jumping over to 450 qualifying, no surprise. I mean, Chase Sexton, you look unreal. Over half a second faster than the field, followed by Jay Coop, Webb, Malcolm Stewart, Shane McElrath with a really good qualifying time. Fifth overall. Dino was up there. Christian Craig was up there as well. So yeah, I mean, a couple of guys really, really stepped it up this qualifying. But I mean, once again, no surprise. Chase Sexton went out there and handled business and looked unreal.
Yeah, Chase Sexton, I mean, he always says in the broadcast, he doesn't care about where he comes in qualifying, but he definitely likes being on top of that leaderboard. You always see him looking up and during, who's above him, who's next to him. He was on rails. He was hard to beat. And then Dylan Ferrandis kind of surprised me.
Hmm.
He was up there too. I was surprised to see him. But he's kind of a sleeper. Sometimes he comes in at fifth, sixth, seventh. He's always kind of hovering around there.
Yeah. Yep. All right. That's it for qualifying. Let's jump over into our heat. So first heat, 250 East. Seth Hammerfer got done, but RJ ends up going down. I think he even got caught. So RJ doesn't even advance. He has to go into the LCQ, which is kind of a rewind. You think about Tom BL last year and how that looked. But yeah, Hammerker looked good. Looked like he was really setting the tone. Followed by Vial, Hannes, Thrasher, Faulkner, Park, Hardy Munoz, Maximus Volant, and then Jack Chambers all advanced. But yeah, I mean it was not a very good start for RJ looking at that Heat one.
Yeah, I mean, like I said earlier, RJ couldn't just seem to get it going early in the day between qualifying, and then getting forced into the LCQ during Heat One. He was really struggling on that track to get things going. But Hammaker, like man, he was pushing, he was charging. He looked like the
Hmm.
best guy out there for sure. And then as a Honda guy, I always like to see Chance Hymas do well. He looked like he was riding pretty well too.
Yeah, and we'll kind of talk about Chance Hymas at the end of the season, just kind of like how he's looked. And yeah, I mean he really just he's kind of been invisible to me out there. I
Yeah.
really was kind of expecting some more from him. All right, going over 250 West Heat results. Julian Bomera gets the win. He ends up passing Deegan. They kind of played a little bit of games there. Drew Adams with a third, really great ride. Mosiman, Shock, Enzo Lopes, Turner, Garrett Marchbanks, Joe Shimoda. No big names. Obviously, Jordan Smith was unable to finish for the night. But yeah, Julian gets out there, gets the win. But yeah, what about 250 Heat 2 West? What stood out
Yeah,
to
it was
you?
fun to watch Juju and Deegan battle. Deegan was definitely looking to put him over, and Juju played good defense, getting around it, not getting taken out. I thought that was really entertaining racing, and they both looked good. Drew Adams, man, third. That
Mm-hmm.
kid's a stud. He's got the makings to be a top guy in the next couple of years for sure.
Yeah, it's required. And it was honestly, it surprised me that he came back, right? He came back last week. We know outdoors are right around the corner. He's going to be out there. So I was really surprised to see him go out there and race his last two rounds with Supercross, just knowing that Supercross there is a little bit more of that risk of him getting hurt right before outdoors. But I mean, yeah, so far it's been a good return for him.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, going over to 450 Heat 1. Aaron Plessinger gets the win. If you look at this lineup, this is as far as heats go, this is definitely kind of a weaker one, right? We have AP, Stewart second, Justin Cooper, Ferrandis, Hill, Craig, Colt Nichols, Kyle Chisholm, and Cade Clayson in that 450 Heat 1. But I mean, no surprise, me. AP looked good. I thought Malcolm was going to bring some speed in there, but yeah, AP got the job done and gets another heat win under his belt.
Yeah, I'd have to agree with you on that. On the Heat one, not too many big names in there. AP was kind of the top guy. Just looking at the gate. Mookie was there, but didn't really do too much in the Heat. But yeah, AP locked it in, dude. Happy to always see him get across number one.
Yeah. And then over to 450 heat number two, Chase Sexton, look great. He was a second faster. Cooper Webb that got second. Dean Wilson, shout out to him, man. He showed that he could run a little bit of pace out there in the heat. Shane McElrath, we'll get into, how great he's looked these last couple weeks. Savachi, Benny Bloshan, A-Rod, and then Starley rounded out. But yeah, good heat too. We saw Sexton and Webb, right out of the gate. Webb really went for it. But yeah, Sexton got the job done.
Yeah, Sexton got it done, man. He was really looking great. Always, Dean Wilson really surprised me. As a fill-in rider, I was happy to see him get something going and actually place pretty well. Hopefully he can keep that going for Honda in the future.
Yeah. All right, let's take a look at these LCQs. So RJ Hampshire gets the win out of two for the LCQ, followed by Hunter Yoder, Devin Simonson, and Gavin Towers. But I mean, yeah, we saw RJ go out there, handle business as he should. The fourth for the LCQ, Kevin Moran's, Mitchell Harrison, Freddie Noren, Grant Harlan. So that kind of rounds out the LCQ to me. I don't recall anything that really stood out to me, but yeah, final LCQs of the year.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. Nothing too major happened in the LCQs. Kind of just run of the mill standard LCQ races.
All right. Well, that brings us over to our 250 main events. I mean, plenty to talk about here. First, let's start out, Hayden Deegan. I mean, last week, we talked about I had a feeling that he's going to go out there and just kind of lay their hammer down and make a statement. And that's exactly what he did. I mean, winning by, double digits, really checked out of the field and all the craziness that went on there. But Deegan went out there and he stamped it, to finish the season off.
Dude, yeah, Deegan, that kid, he didn't even have to do all that, but he hates to lose. He really loves winning, that kid. That's kind of what I expected from him. He's the fastest guy clear, and if he can be, he's going to show it. He's going to show everyone else who's boss. He likes to be in the spotlight. He likes to be ahead. So, good for him, man. He didn't even need to win that race, but went out there and just smoked him.
Yeah, yeah, no, it wasn't close. So shout out to him. That's exactly what I do. But honestly, he honestly, I never saw him on the screen most of the night except for the very end because of all the chaos that was going behind. So first thing, let's start out with Julian Bomeri, right? He's out there, he's running. Obviously, he rides for KTM, same team as Tom Vial, of course. But I mean, I don't know. He made some very interesting moves. Obviously, he was making sure that he didn't pass Tom Vial, which is that's fine, which eventually he did anyways. But then at one point in the race, it looked like he kind of let Hammaker go by as if like, hey, I'm not going to get into this. But then they jump the triple, and then he goes and he almost basically kind of runs them off the track. And to me, I'm just like, Julie, where was all this when Hayden Deegan was talking all that crap to you, and you're just like, oh, he's got one coming, and you never touched him, and you're more aggressive with Hammaker than you were with Deegan all year.
Yeah, Bomer was kind of all over the place, man. But yeah, he was. I couldn't really see what he was doing. I mean, he was kind of just floating around, like you said. He got into it with Hammaker, but I didn't think he really needed to go with Hammaker. It wasn't that big of a deal. It wasn't their battle to have, and but
Yeah.
yeah, Juju was kind of just all over the place. I was kind of surprised to see that out of him when, like you said, against Deegan, all that beef they had, Instagram, whatever else, but nothing on that front.
Yeah, it's kind of disappointing because I think this track really suited Julian Bobert pretty good. Obviously, fastest qualifier to where maybe if he just went out there and rode, maybe he would have been up there riding with Deegan and kind of putting the battle there. But it just seemed like he got too wrapped up in the other title and what was going on with there that he kind of got sucked up into it. It almost hurt me out there too at the end. But going into the really the biggest talking point, RJ. He puts himself in position to get there. He works his way up through the field. They got past Vial. It wasn't looking like a good night for Vial. Hammerker's up there ahead. Looks like he's gonna wrap it up, and RJ comes in there. He had the door. It was wide open, but RJ couldn't execute the pass. Takes down himself, and yeah, I mean we've seen this one too many times with RJ. It's kind of ridiculous.
Yeah, I mean it was classic Hampshire, man. RJ's he there was no need, that inside line was wide open. He did not need to kamikaze into Hammaker like that. I mean, my heart was broken for Hammaker. I was really pulling for him. It looked like he had it wrapped up. Prior to that hit, Hammaker was riding, man. He was having some great battles back and forth. He looked like he was the guy for the night, but it's unfortunate Hampshire just kind of came in and swept him out, himself and Hammaker out, and just kind of ruined it for the both of them. You could see the defeat on Hammaker's face after the race. It was just, you got to feel for the kid. That sucks.
Yeah, if you look at the three, I'm curious to look at the lap times here, but I mean Hampshire looked like he rode the best out of the three of them. I mean he had a bad start, he was able to catch him back up. Hammaker was ahead of Hampshire, so Hammaker had the momentum going, but he let RJ catch up to him and get close to where, and you let that happen. And yeah, I mean RJ, I think he was faster regardless. I think he still had to kind of get Hammaker to go down for him to have a chance because neither one of them were going to win. But yeah, I don't know. RJ needs to work on his takeouts or something, dude, because every time he attempts on it, it always just goes bad, whether it's a puddle or whether it's in this case to where he takes both of them down. And then, of course, Vial, what he's been doing all year long, just capitalizes on everyone's mistakes, wasn't the fastest one out there. And he ends up getting this title because these other two end up getting caught up with each other.
Yeah, man, I was gonna kind of touch on that Vial. He's kind of done the same thing all season. He hangs around fifth, fourth place, and kind of waits for a mistake to happen. And he's making the moves when they need to be made, or kind of when it gets handed to him. He hasn't really shown much aggressive riding or like that. He's the guy when it comes to bar racing, but it's just kind of the classic Vial this whole season, hanging back and waiting for his time to strike, or gets given his time to strike in this instance.
Yeah, I mean he ended up getting a win, final, which I was questionable that he was going to get one, but I mean to be honest with Vial, congratulations to him going back to back titles. I mean he ended up getting the job done, but honestly, people are more talking about, oh no, he has to jump up to 450 now versus, oh yeah, he won his second 250 title, which is usually weird. Usually when a guy wins their second 250 titles, hey, yeah, let's see him jump up to 450. But I don't know, you put Tom Vial on a 450 in Supercross, it might be kind of scary out there.
Yeah, man, I don't think what it takes to hang with the big dogs of 450 that are coming back now. Imagine him getting into a JA. Yeah, that kid's gonna be rattled for a
Hmm.
few weeks after that. It's
Yeah.
way bigger head games that him, Barsha, dude, Cooper Webb's big about the mind games. I just don't think he has to obviously, but it's I think it's going to be an eye-opening experience for himself to be like, man, holy shit, these guys are this is real racing. He can't hang around and wait for someone to make a mistake because then you got six other guys behind you that are just as fast that are ready to put you over the bars.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, well, like I said, we'll see what he does, but he has to jump up to 450 next year, so that's going to throw some wrench into things, especially with silly season and the contracts coming up. But congrats to Tom Bial. He got the job done. He got the title. He defended it. It's not easy to do, and hey, I'm looking for him to take a step in outdoors. I want to see him kind of hang with those guys and get some more wins. A couple of notables out there. Austin Faulkner gets a 22nd. Enzo Lopes with a 20th. Simonson with an 18th. He's been getting some momentum, kind of falls down there. Vaughn with a 12th. Hymas, we were talking about Hymas, in 11th. And man, I don't know. I expected so much more from him. I thought he was going to get better as the season went on, but he didn't really get any better. If anything, yeah, he got the win, but it was a mutter. But normal conditions, he just didn't have it.
Yeah, man, he couldn't get it going, which I hate to see. I'm a big Honda guy. I would really like to see him do well, but I was pulling for him. But like, yeah, he won the mutter, which is that's not really saying that much. It's picking lines, but
Right.
he couldn't get anything going. He was consistently not qualifying that well. He's consistently not placing well. I'm curious to see what his future with HRC is going to be. And then similar to that, Joe Shimoda, he's
Hmm.
kind of an all or nothing guy as well. And speaking of 250 HRC, it's sometimes he might get a third, he might get a win, but he also might come in 18th. It's kind of hard to predict with these guys.
Yeah, so let's go into the overall. I guess if we looked at the standings, it'd be a little bit different here. So let's take a look here. Obviously, we know what happened out in the West. So let's take a look and see where the point standings finish as far as the 250 East goes. So Tom Bial, 180, ends up beating Hammaker by 3 points, 177. RJ Hampshire, 173. But yeah, I mean, Chance Hymas, 130. He finishes sixth in the title chase. Colin Park finishes ahead of him and Nate Thrasher.
Yeah.
So, I mean, yeah, I expected more. I mean, hopefully we'll see outdoors. We know he has some speed there. Um, but yeah, I mean, overall, really good. Both coasts ended up being, really great stories. Really excited to head out to outdoors with this stacked group of guys, and hopefully we'll have some riders come back. But yeah, overall, what do you think as far as the 250 titles this year?
Yeah, I mean, I thought it was great racing on both coasts overall. I mean, it was great um, battles the whole season. I thought, great overall. Deegan kind of, I was anticipating him taking the win, and he did. But I'm looking forward to outdoor, like you said. Kitchen comes back. I'd like to see them get into the mix with some guys. Like you said, Forkner kind of lackluster. I was hoping he was going to do better on the
Yep.
Triumph, but um, we'll see what outdoor brings.
Yep. No, absolutely. Great season. I mean, we didn't really know. If you look at the 250 West Coast, Julian took that coast by storm. Deegan really struggled. Deegan turned it around, finished on a strong note. And then that East Coast, we looked at that lineup and there were a lot of big names on there, but also a lot of those names we ended up losing throughout the season due to injuries. And I mean, it came down to be a bar burner at the end. So another great 250 season in the books. But let's jump over into the 450s. Chase Sexton gets the job done, looked great doing it. He had the opportunity, Cooper Webb got out there and Webb was going for the win until Sexton got close. And to be honest, Webb kind of messed up the rhythm and it really didn't give Sexton any opportunity to do anything shady because Sexton just kind of jumped right by him. And that was really all she wrote. Webb ends up falling back, getting a fourth, but gets the job done. But I mean, yeah, we saw this coming, Chase Sexton, and it really comes down to Pittsburgh. He didn't get that win, but you look back at Texas, we were there that round. He had that wrapped up in the book. I think it was an 8 point swing, is what they ended up
Yeah.
saying, and a chance for him to win. And that's the title right there. And just a bonehead mistake that prevents Chase Sexton from winning the title.
Yeah, I mean that's it's kind of typical Sexton. He was the same in the Honda. He'll have those big leads and he just tucks the front. And unfortunately, this season, it cost him the title. Awesome to see Webb get it done 3 time. He was the guy this season. And I'm curious of how would it have shaken down if it was a full field with the Lawrence
Mhm.
brothers, everybody else, Tomac, JA finishing out the season. Would it shaken down the same way? Not sure, but good to see Webb get another.
Yeah, absolutely. Shout out to Webb, like you said, 3 time. He's a list of six now that have, three or more titles. So great job to him. Honestly, this might have been the best version of a Supercross Webb that we saw, right? We saw him have speed to where he was fastest qualifier at some point. We saw him, Pittsburgh, he straight up just beat Chase Sexton, just head to head. So this might have been the best version of Cooper Webb that we saw. But it was also a lot of classic Cooper Webb rides where he came back when the tracks got beat down and got the job done. But we'll see. I'm curious to see how he goes for outdoors. Obviously, it's going to take him a little bit to kind of get up and running. But I mean, yeah, shout out to Cooper Webb. Really, really great season overall. As far as the rest of the main event, Malcolm Stewart gets a second place. Great job. Jay Coop back on the box. Savachi with a fifth. AP Dino with a seventh. His ride with the HRC. That's it. It's done. So, I mean, honestly, I think that was a pretty good filling ride for him. I mean, he was top 10 pretty consistent. Finishes with a seventh overall. I mean, yeah, I mean, I felt like that was a win for HRC.
I think so too, man. Yeah, like you said, he was consistent, gets it done, and happy to see him get the opportunity. I'm excited to see. Hopefully, he'll get a ride somewhere next year, and we'll see what the future brings for Dino.
Yeah. And then shout out Shane McElrath. I mean, he really turned it around. He showed some speed as of late. I mean, a lot of people argue say, hey, maybe he should have got the HRC fill-in ride, but who knows? Maybe going forward. But really, really great ride by McElrath. Ferrandis 10th, and then the one person I really want to talk about, Christian Craig with 11th. I mean, I don't know. What do you think? Do you expect to see Christian Craig come back for Supercross? He's already announced that he's not doing outdoors, but I mean, I don't know. Does he come back for Supercross?
I mean, I feel like he wants to because he came back, halfway through this season, but I'm not feeling him, man. He hasn't done much in Supercross and prior to the injury, and he hasn't been a fighting force in a few years.
Hmm.
He might be better as a coach like he was doing and working with the team. I think he's a great rider. I think he's a great you know person to look up to, but I don't see him coming back next year.
Yeah, I agree. And his Supercross results aren't going to be enough for him to get into the SMX playoffs. So, I mean, I'm curious to see if he lines up for a couple outdoors and maybe fight into it. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, it really wasn't great. It took him a while to get going, to even come out and start racing. Even when he did, the results weren't that great. Um, Looking at the overall point standings, so Cooper Webb gets the title. Chase Sexton second. Shout out to Justin Cooper. He gets the third overall over Malcolm Stewart. This was a chase that we've been watching, basically kind of like the halfway point to see how these two are going to stack up because they were really close, especially with Roxon going out. But I mean, Jay Coop. I mean, really solid year overall. He got close to getting those main events wins. I think, figuring out how to skim loops. I mean, he might win a race next year. I wouldn't be surprised if he did.
Yeah, man. I mean, he had a couple opportunities to make it happen this season. I feel he was real fast in qualifying, pretty consistently, and he's right up there with the best of them. Like you said, he dials in a few things, skimming whoops, and maybe line choices, and I think he can lock in at least one next season.
Yeah, and who knows? I mean, we saw him lead laps outdoors last year. Thunder Valley comes to mind too. So I don't think it's going to be long until we see Jay Coop on the top spot. Sometimes if he can get these good starts and he can get his, it seems like maybe his cardio is the issue and get those loops figured out. He might be a threat here down the road. Let's see. Roxon ends up getting fifth. We know he wasn't able to finish the last couple rounds. AP, like I said, ugly start, turned it around. Ferrandis, Hill, Shane McElrath ninth, and Barcia round out the 10th. But I mean, overall, you look at this 450 title chase, and when we saw Jet go down, when we saw Hunter go down, when we saw Eli Tomac go down, we thought, oh boy, here we go. This title chase is going to get really boring. Sexton's going to be able to run away with it as he should have. He showed multiple times that he was the fastest guy out there and deserved to win this title, but too many mental mistakes. And Cooper Webb, as strong as he is, ended up getting the job done. But I mean, really great title race. I mean, going to Salt Lake maybe kind of lost some of that flame, but overall, I mean, really great Supercross season.
Yeah, the overall the season was great, despite like you said, big names going down. Once ever Tomac went down, the Lawrence brothers. I was like, man, it's going to be a landslide the rest of the season. It's going to be boring to watch, but I think it was great racing to watch all year. Roxon was in the mix there, coming out of nowhere. AP looking great. So I had a great time watching this season, and but I am looking forward to having the full gate top dogs back for outdoor and seeing what can happen there.
All right, so kind of putting you on the spot here. So kind of looking back, what would you say? Who stood out to you the most when it came to Supercross, just overall, whether 250, 450s, and then who kind of let you down? Who didn't do as good as you were hoping they would do?
I mean, overall, Cole Davies, man, that guy
Hmm.
he's solid. That guy, he could beat Deegan.
Yeah,
He's
he
gotten
did.
beat, and he did. And I think he's the guy, and then looking his future will be very bright. Um, on 450, not really the top dog names, but Justin Hill, he
Hmm.
was kind of a sleeper. He was up there a lot, privateer rider, riding that black KTM. He's if he got a factory ride, he could be dangerous with the right tools. Um,
Yeah.
in terms of people that let me down, kind of like we kind of touched on it earlier. It's the 250 HRC team, Honda or
Hmm.
Shimoda and Hymas. They just couldn't seem to get it going this season,
Mm.
man.
Yep. Yeah, no, I agree. And yeah, I'm with you. Cole Davies, obviously, he got the rookie of the year. Bummer that he's hurt. Sounds like, thankfully nothing too crazy, but I don't know if we'll see him in the outdoors. We might just see him line up for SMX. But yeah, I was really looking forward to see what he could do in outdoors. But Yeah, I mean, going into Supercross, I can tell you right now, Deegan and Davies are going to be separate coasts, and they're going to be the favorites on each of their coasts too. So that's going to be really interesting to see roll out. Um, but yeah, I'm with you. Disappointment. I was really disappointed in Chance Hymas specifically. You know, with Shimoda with the whole finger thing, you don't really know what you're going to get. He looked great at A1.
Yeah,
But that finger thing with the pit board, kind of threw a wrench into it. But Hymas, I knew he was going to start out slow because he was just on the bike, but he never really got any better throughout the rest of the year. And he was there too. I get it. He got his win, but I'm sorry with the mutter that it was. If you look at the rest of the results, it was more bad than it was good most of the year.
yeah, a win's a win when it comes down to it, but that you're not lining up going bar to bar and winning that race.
Yeah.
It's a mutter. But yeah, like you said, he trains with the Lawrences. He's got a factory bike. He came in slow and kind of just stayed flatline, man. He
Hmm.
couldn't seem to pick up the pace, couldn't seem to keep up, and just kind of stayed mediocre at best, which is unfortunate.
Yeah, yeah. So hopefully we'll see him make a good step going into outdoors. And the 450, something that really stood out to me was Justin Cooper. I mean, he was pretty consistent year in and year out. Got a couple of heat wins, couple of 450 podiums. I mean, he gets those loops figured out, starts skimming. Like I said, I would not be surprised if he's one of those names that gets one of those weirdo wins that we see every year. I just see Jay Coop's gonna get that locked in, but. I mean, yeah, overall, I mean, this really great season. Supercross has come to an end. It's crazy. It seems like it just started not too long ago, but hey, we're looking forward to outdoors Paula in a couple of weeks. We're expecting to see Tomac back. Jet should be back. Hunter should be back. 250s, we'll see. It doesn't sound like Pierce Brown's going to be back out there as of yet, and a couple other bigger names. But yeah, I'm ready for outdoors. Stack that gate, 40 guys, and let's go see him shred some moto. But James, anything else that you want to add?
No, man. That's we covered it all. Actually, one thing that video you sent me at Cooper Webb dancing when
Oh
he's
yeah.
I'm the fucking champion. I was like, see
Yeah.
that was giving me like heavy like '90s throwback. That's like McGrath just like partying his ass off for the win. So I thought you usually don't see like if Sexton won, you wouldn't see like videos of him doing
Hmm.
that. You don't see Webb in that light usually. He's usually just like kind of you seen press day, but I thought that was a pretty funny video. I thought it was pretty hilarious.
Honestly, it looked like it was filmed in the 90s because for some reason, like the quality wasn't like that great.
Yeah,
But
it's like filmed on a flip phone or something, man.
yeah, but just knowing how Cooper Webb is, how he usually just looks really, serious. Most of the time, to see him just kind of break loose. And there's another video out there of him like dancing and stuff. So yeah, I mean, it's really cool, right? I mean, he's the older guy. He's 29, I think, going into 30s at the end of his career, right? He even said his post race conference that he's like, hey, this is probably the last one I'm gonna get, right? So I mean, he really dug deep and made it happen. Very unlikely going into the season, but I mean that's Cooper Webb for you. I mean he makes it happen, at all costs. But well, all right. Well, thanks for sitting in with us, James. That's a wrap for this week, and that's a wrap for Supercross 2025. That is it. Follow us on Instagram, TikTok, subscribe on YouTube. But we're gonna have a pre-show coming up for the outdoors, and we're gonna have some special guests, coming down the road as well. But thank you for listening. We'll talk to you next time. See ya.